The day David Smith died, Sarah Johnson suddenly opened a pie shop that only sold meat pies. Everyone who ate her meat pies committed suicide. A debunking streamer didn't believe it and live-streamed himself trying a bite of my mom's meat pie, and ended up jumping off a building and dying on the spot. In an instant, my mom became a sensation online. Everyone was discussing what was so strange about the meat pies she sold. The police quickly set up an investigation team to rigorously test my mom's meat pies. But no matter how they tested them, they couldn't find anything wrong. Until my wedding day, when my mom came to the wedding. She brought my fiancé a meat pie she made herself. David Smith died unexpectedly, but my mom didn't cry. She didn't even let me hold a wake for David Smith. She had his body cremated that day and then opened a pie shop. The pie shop did terrible business, but it gained a lot of notoriety. Because anyone who ate my mom's meat pie would immediately commit suicide. A daring debunking streamer didn't believe it and made a special trip to my home to check it out, risking his life to livestream himself eating a meat pie my mom was selling. As a result, the streamer, who had been laughing the second before and saying that he would not commit suicide, immediately jumped off a building and killed himself in front of everyone in the livestream after taking a bite of my mom's meat pie. The livestream video went viral, and my mom instantly became a sensation online. The police quickly set up an investigation team to investigate the meat pies my mom was selling. After rigorous testing, they couldn't find anything wrong. Because the incident was so egregious and the impact was so great, coupled with a joint petition and lawsuit from the victims' families, my mom was ultimately sentenced to 5 years in prison for involuntary manslaughter. Her pie shop was also completely shut down. I went to the prison for visiting hours with my mom and asked her, completely puzzled, "Mom, what's wrong with the meat pies you're selling? Why did everyone who ate them commit suicide?" Separated by a glass partition, my mom said calmly, "They didn't want to live anymore." What does that have to do with the meat pies I'm selling? Looking at my mom's calm, even cold, face, I couldn't help but get emotional. "Mom, those neighbors came to our home to buy meat pies specifically to support your business. Uncle Leo fought leukemia for 10 years. No matter how much it hurt, no matter how difficult it was, he persevered. He always said that life is precious and nothing is more important than living." Aunt Wendy is also famously cautious. Over the years, whenever she had a headache or a fever, she would insist on being hospitalized, afraid that something would happen to her. Tell me, why would people who cherish their lives so much suddenly commit suicide? I was grief-stricken and even more puzzled. Most of the people who died after eating my mom's meat pies were kind elders who had watched me grow up. They were kind and optimistic and had always gotten along well with our family. Especially after David Smith died, they understood that it wasn't easy for my mom to take care of me alone. They made a special effort to support my mom's pie shop business. I never expected that their kindness would be rewarded with such a tragic end. I really couldn't figure out what was going on. Faced with my questions, my mom just gave me a deep look and then said indifferently, "Don't ask. It's not good for you to know too much." After coldly leaving those words, my mom ended the visiting hours. After leaving the prison, I went back to my hometown. The neighbors who used to greet me warmly whenever they saw me now treated me like a jinx, avoiding me like the plague. The front door and walls were covered in graffiti, "Murderer, give us back our father, die," and other insults and curses. Since my mom went to jail, the victims' families would come to our home every few days to spray paint, throw excrement, toss dead rats, and send wreaths. I really couldn't figure out why a perfectly good home would become like this. Why did my David Smith just die, and my mom cremated his body that same day, and opened a pie shop? Why would everyone who ate my mom's meat pies commit suicide on the spot? I wanted to know the answer. But after our last conversation, my mom refused to see me again. Her coldness and the malice of the neighbors' families were unbearable. I moved out of this sad place and started living with my boyfriend, Rob Anderson, whom I had been dating for many years. In those dark and helpless days, he was always there for me, comforting me, sticking up for me, and telling everyone that it wasn't my fault. 5 years later, we set a wedding date. On the eve of the wedding, Rob asked me carefully, "Hazel Thompson, your mom's already out of prison. This is such a big day for us to get married. Aren't you inviting your mom? Do you still hate her?" I paused and said seriously, "I really can't accept that so many people committed suicide after eating my mom's meat pies. I can't figure out why my mom would want to kill them." Rob said without thinking, "What if it was just a coincidence? After all, the police investigated it carefully, and there was nothing wrong with the meat pies your mom was selling. I think your mom must be a good person to have raised you to be so outstanding." As he spoke, Rob held my hand tightly and gently advised, "No matter what, she's still your mom. This is such a big day for us to get married. You should still let her know. After all, she's your only family in this world. If she finds out that her only daughter is getting married and didn't even invite her, how sad would she be?" Rob was always so kind and considerate, always thinking of others. In the past few years, when I was confused and desperate, he was like a ray of sunshine, dispelling all the shadows around me and teaching me how to go from darkness to light. What he said made me feel both sad and warm inside. After thinking for a moment, I finally sent my mom an invitation. The next day, at the wedding, to show how much he valued me, Rob made the wedding grand and lavish. The venue was packed with guests and bustling with excitement. My mom also came as a guest. I hadn't seen her in years, and she had lost weight. The wrinkles around her eyes and her slightly gray hair made her look incredibly haggard. There was no expression on her face, and her eyes only moved back and forth between Rob and me. Maybe it had been too long, but I felt like there was a layer of unfathomable depth in my mom's eyes. When Rob saw my mom come, he immediately went up to her and said politely with a smile, "Aunt, thank you for coming to Hazel Thompson and my wedding." My mom gave him a deep look, then took out a meat pie from her bag and handed it to Rob. "I made it myself. It's for you." Seeing this, the guests at the scene instantly burst into an uproar. Seriously? She's giving meat pies at her own daughter's wedding? Doesn't she know her meat pies kill people? Exactly. It's scary just looking at them. It's so unlucky. And she's giving the meat pie to her son-in-law. Isn't she deliberately trying to cause trouble? Everyone was talking at once, their words full of fear and disgust. Some people even took out their cell phones and started a live stream of my mom. The live stream's popularity soared, and the number of viewers skyrocketed. The ordinary wedding instantly became the focus of attention, watched by the entire internet. Rob's parents' faces darkened, and they said rudely to my mother-in-law, "Today is Rob and Hazel Thompson's big day. What do you mean by giving my son a meat pie?" I couldn't help but step forward and say to my mom, dissatisfied, "Mom, haven't you heard enough people?" Everyone was blaming my mom, but Rob was the only one who politely took the meat pie from him. "Why Mom's hand?" Then he said to me gently, "Hazel Thompson, I believe your mom wouldn't hurt me. Today is our big day. She must have brought the meat pie to bless us. Let's not let her good intentions go to waste." After speaking, Rob spoke earnestly to the audience at the scene and the live stream camera. "Everyone, I'm sure you all know about the meat pie incident from years ago that went viral online, where people would commit suicide after eating a meat pie. It's been 5 years since the meat pie incident. Today is the day Hazel Thompson and I are getting married, and I want to say a few words for her and my mother-in-law. You may not know, but because of that incident, Hazel Thompson has lived in pain, being scolded and cursed by people every day for the past 5 years. She didn't do anything wrong, but she's been blamed and criticized wherever she goes. To be honest, my heart aches for her. although that incident is hard to explain. But I think everyone may have misunderstood my mother-in-law. After all, the police didn't find any evidence, did they? Maybe that incident was just a coincidence, or maybe those people had special reasons of their own, so they made the same choice. Anyway, I don't believe that anyone would choose to commit suicide after eating a normal meat pie. So, today I want to take this opportunity to clear my mother-in-law's name. After speaking, Rob picked up the meat pie and prepared to eat it. Seeing this, I immediately stopped him. Rob, don't eat it. His parents also said in unison, anxiously, Rob, don't be impulsive. Rob smiled at us and said firmly, don't worry, I definitely won't commit suicide. After all, I still have to marry Hazel Thompson and grow old with her. After speaking, Rob once again said loudly and forcefully to everyone, today, I want to personally prove to everyone that those people's suicides have nothing to do with the meat pies my mother-in-law sells. With that, he took a big bite of tea. He meat pie in front of everyone. However, after swallowing that bite of meat pie, a look of shock suddenly appeared in Rob's eyes. Then he ran madly towards the hotel balcony. Bang! Accompanied by a loud crashing sound, screams rang out from downstairs. All of this happened so suddenly. By the time everyone reacted, Rob was lying in a pool of blood, his body twisted. He was gone. Rob was dead. He died at our wedding. He died from the meat pie my mom brought. All the guests rushed downstairs, looking at the scene in shock and pain. Mike Lawson's mom collapsed to the ground, holding Rob and crying hysterically. The person who was live streaming pointed their cell phone directly at the scene, their voice trembling as they narrated, "Oh my God, the groom committed suicide." Did everyone see that? Before he ate the meat pie, he swore that he wouldn't commit suicide, but after he ate it, he committed suicide without saying a word. There is something wrong with this meat pie. Anyone who takes a bite will commit suicide. The people in the live stream were also extremely excited. They recorded the screen and took screenshots, spreading them all over the internet for discussion. I looked at Rob, who had been smiling just a moment ago and saying that he would grow old with me. In the blink of an eye, he had turned into a bloody corpse. My heart ached so much that I couldn't breathe. Just because he loved me, because he wanted to clear my and my mom's names. He ate my mom's meat pie. He died at our wedding. I couldn't accept this fact. While everyone at the scene was in a panic, my mom slowly walked downstairs. She calmly smoothed her hair at her temples, as if the chaos around her had nothing to do with her. Seeing her like this, Rob's dad was furious, pointing at her and shouting hatefully, "What's wrong with your meat pies? Why did my son commit suicide as soon as he ate one?" The other guests at the scene were also filled with righteous indignation, cursing loudly. "You murderer! You knew your meat pies were dangerous, but you still brought them to the wedding. What were you thinking? Rob was such a good person. He knew you were coming to the wedding and specifically told us not to look at you with prejudiced eyes. When he saw you bring a meat pie to give him, he even risked his own life to prove your innocence, but you killed him. Are you even human? No wonder your husband died early. I bet you killed him, too. Someone as evil as you should rot in jail forever." Even the livestream comments were filled with the most vicious curses directed at my mom because they felt sorry for Rob's death. Faced with the angry curses of the crowd, my mom remained calm and indifferent. He wanted to commit suicide. What does that have to do with my meat pies? My mom's tone was light, as if she were completely uninvolved. Hearing this, Rob's mom stood up and grabbed my mom by the collar, shouting hatefully with tears in her eyes, "You still dare to say that my son's death has nothing to do with your meat pies? He clearly said he wouldn't commit suicide before he ate the meat pie. He even said he wanted to grow old with your daughter. But as soon as he ate the meat, he was like a different person. He committed suicide right away. Tell me, what's wrong with your meat pies? Why did you bring them to kill my son? Mike Lawson's mom, who was always gentle and loving, completely broke down at this moment. I didn't stop her, but looked at my mom in disappointment, saying with a broken heart, "Why isn't it enough that you've hurt so many people? Why did you have to bring the meat pie to ruin my wedding and kill Rob? Do you not want me to be happy?" Because of my mom, I have lived in nightmares every day for the past 5 years. Often, I would be walking along just fine when someone would pour a bucket of dirty water on me and publicly insult me as the daughter of a murderer. There were countless times when I wanted to die to give the victims' families an explanation. Rob was the one who comforted me, encouraged me, and pulled me out of the abyss time and time again. He said that he wanted to marry me and be with me as family, forever protecting me and taking care of me. He said that he would shield me from all suffering and make me happy forever. But now, my mom's appearance had ruined everything. She killed Rob. She destroyed the happiness that I had worked so hard to get. Rob's death made my hatred for my mom explode to the extreme. My mom looked straight at me, and a trace of sadness rarely appeared on her cold face. "Do you think that of me?" I wiped away my tears and said painfully, "I just want to know what's wrong with the meat pies you make." 5 years ago, so many positive, optimistic neighbors who cherished their lives inexplicably committed suicide after eating my mom's meat pies. And today, Rob, who guaranteed that he would never commit suicide, also died in front of me in such a tragic way after eating a bite of the meat pie. I wanted to know what was wrong with the meat pie, why it would make them make such extreme choices. The emotions of the guests and onlookers at the scene also exploded, and they kept cursing my mom. "You've killed so many people before, and now you've killed your son-in-law. You murderer, you don't deserve to live in this world. If you don't explain everything to us today, we won't let you leave here alive. Tell us, what's wrong with your meat pies?" Even the live stream viewers were frantically spamming the screen, eager to know the answer. Faced with everyone's accusations and questioning, my mom indifferently shook off Rob's mom's hand. Then, she picked up the half-eaten meat pie from next to Rob's body, looked around at everyone, and said coldly, "What's wrong with this meat pie? You can only know if you eat it yourself. Do you dare to eat it?" Hearing this, the noisy scene instantly quieted down. Everyone fell silent, looking frightened. Even the Vestream comments, which had been filled with people wanting to know the secret of the meat pie, stopped involuntarily. Because that was the meat pie that could make people commit suicide. Everyone who had eaten it had chosen to commit suicide without hesitation. Although everyone was curious, they were even more afraid. In the silence, I stood up. "I dare to eat it." Because of the meat pies my mom sold, so many innocent people, and my beloved boyfriend, had committed suicide. I wanted to know why. Even if it meant death, I wasn't afraid. My mom looked at me deeply. "Are you sure you want to eat it?" I nodded. "I'm sure." After speaking, I took the half-eaten meat pie from my mom's hand and ate it in front of everyone. After I finished the meat pie, everyone stared at me intently, their eyes full of tension. After all, everyone had just seen Rob commit suicide without hesitation after eating a bite of the meat pie. Everyone wanted to see what my reaction would be after I ate the meat pie. Whether I would commit suicide. The scene was silent. Only the live stream comments kept spamming the screen. "It's over. It's over. She ate it. She's going to die soon. This is too scary. I don't even dare to watch. I'm curious what's so special about that meat pie. Why does it make people commit suicide as soon as they eat it? Streamer, hurry up and ask that woman what the meat pie tastes like before she commits suicide. What does she feel right now?" However, under everyone's curious and nervous gaze, I didn't do anything strange. Instead, I looked at my mom with a puzzled expression. "Why am I okay?" My mom looked at me and said faintly, "I said, they wanted to commit suicide. It has nothing to do with my meat pies. I frowned and retorted, it can't have anything to do with it. If it wasn't for eating your meat pie, why would Rob suddenly commit suicide for no reason? Faced with my questioning, my mom said indifferently, if that's the case, why are you okay aft? Are eating the meat pie? Before I could speak again, several police cars quickly arrived at the scene and stopped. Immediately after, several police officers got out of the car and went straight to my mom. We received a report that you are suspected of intentional homicide. You just got out of prison, and you're already committing crimes again. Come with us to the city police department for an investigation. Facing the police again, my mom still didn't say anything, silently putting on handcuffs and getting into the car. Through the car window, my mom gazed at me with deep eyes. In her eyes, it seemed like there were thousands of words. I always felt like she had something she wanted to tell me, but it also seemed like there was some reason that she couldn't say it. As I watched her leave, my mom followed the police car, getting further and further away. After my mom was taken away, the people at the scene still stared at me without moving. Seeing that I was indeed fine, Rob's mom stepped forward and asked me carefully, Hazel Thompson, that meat pie, did you feel anything different after you ate it? Until now, everyone who has eaten my mom's meat pies has died. So, no one can tell everyone if there's anything different about the way my mom's meat pies taste compared to ordinary meat pies. But now it was different. I had eaten my mom's meat pie, and I didn't die. So, everyone placed their hopes of unraveling the mystery on me. Facing Rob's mom's sad and confused eyes, I replied seriously, it's no different from a regular meat pie. Hearing this, Rob's mom frowned and said in confusion, how is that possible? Then why did my son commit suicide after eating the meat pie? The others also looked incredulous. That's right. Everyone saw Rob commit suicide after eating the meat pie. You're the only one who's eaten the meat pie and is still okay. You have to explain everything to us. That's right. Otherwise, Rob will have died for nothing. The viewers in the live stream also typed messages, telling me that I had to explain everything and be responsible for the people who had died. Even Rob's dad spoke to me in a low voice. Hazel Thompson, my son was head over heels for you. He never made you suffer in all these years. He even died because of you. You can't let him die like this without knowing why. Faced with everyone's questioning, I explained seriously again, Rob died because of me. I want to know why he committed suicide more than anyone else. Otherwise, I wouldn't have risked my life to eat the rest of his meat pie in public. But since I ate it, I definitely won't hide anything. I'm also curious why this meat pie is no different from a regular meat pie, but why did Rob commit suicide after eating it, while I'm fine after eating it? Rob's mom thought for a moment and continued to ask, could it be that your mom gave you some kind of antidote beforehand? I shook my head without hesitation. I haven't seen my mom in 5 years. Other than this meat pie, I haven't eaten anything she's given me. Seeing that my words were firm and my expression was serious, the others, although they still had doubts, didn't say anything more. Instead, they were busy taking care of Rob's funeral. A happy occasion turned into a funeral. My heart also fell from heaven to hell. After attending Rob's funeral with a tired body and a broken heart, I returned to my original hometown. Seeing that I had returned, the Sunnyvale community instantly turned red-eyed and said indignantly, you jinx, how dare you come back? You even killed your fiancé. How can you still have the face to live in this world? Everyone who ate your mom's meat pies died, but you're the only one who's okay. You two must be working together to hurt people. Demons like you, whose hands are covered in human lives, don't deserve to live. As they spoke, they rushed towards me madly with endless hatred. Looking at those hateful eyes, I did not doubt that they could tear me apart on the spot. Before they could get close, I took off running madly towards our home. Then I hid inside and locked the door. Outside, those people were still banging on the door, cursing me with the most vicious and awful words. I covered my ears tightly. I couldn't help but recall Rob's gentle smiling face. If he were still here, he would rush in front of me without hesitation, doing everything he could to protect me and shield me from that malice. After driving those people away, he would hug me tightly and tell me gently that he would always be with me. He could always stand up for me when I was helpless and desperate. Like a towering mountain, shielding me from the wind and rain. My strongest support. But now, my only support was gone. Just thinking about how such a wonderful person would only exist in memories from now on, I couldn't help but burst into tears. I hated my mom, even more than I hated myself. If it weren't for loving me, Rob wouldn't have died. Recalling his tragic death when he jumped off the building, and my mom's deep gaze when she left, I felt more and more that something was wrong. I quickly got up and started frantically searching the entire house. I didn't know what I was looking for, but I always felt like I had overlooked something very important. Especially the way my mom looked like she wanted to say something, but couldn't. It always gave me a premonition. Rob and the others' deaths might have something to do with me. I searched from day to night, until the entire house, inside and out, was silent. Until the entire home had been turned upside down. Only then did I stop, empty-handed. I collapsed on the bed, staring weakly at the ceiling, feeling like a ship without a rudder, drifting on the boundless sea. The wind pushed me forward, and the waves pushed me back to where I started. I tried to find a harbor where I could dock, but all around me was only the vast sea and thick fog. It was as if the whole world was telling me that I had nowhere to go and no one to rely on. Despair and confusion deeply enveloped me. It made me lose my sense of direction in life and also lose the will to live. Just then, I heard the sound of the door opening. I got up and went to the living room and saw that my mom, who was supposed to be in jail, was now standing at the door. The last time, after my mom was taken away by the police, she was imprisoned for 5 years. But this time, she had come home safely, as if nothing had happened. Under my curious gaze, my mom calmly cooked herself a bowl of noodles. She ate slowly and leisurely. From beginning to end, she was very calm. Like she was just coming home from work to rest. While eating, she could even scroll through her phone, even laughing from time to time. Seeing her like this, I couldn't help but think of Rob's tragic death when he jumped off the building. I really couldn't understand how she could be so carefree and unaffected after killing Rob. I didn't say anything, storming back to my room, slamming the door shut, and calling Detective David Brown. Detective Johnson, what's going on with my mom? Why was she released? Detective Johnson was the city police department's detective captain. He cared a lot about my mom's case and had been asking me about my mom's situation for the past few years. This time, my mom killed Rob, and he was the one who directly led the team to arrest my mom. On the other end of the phone, Detective Johnson sighed deeply and said helplessly, "Your mom insists that Rob's death had nothing to do with her. Although I want to investigate the truth and bring her to justice, I also have to follow the law. After all, you and Rob did eat the same meat pie, and nothing happened to you. We have no evidence to prove that Rob's death was related to her meat pie, so we can only let her go home." After speaking, he added emphatically, "You're living with your mom. Be careful." After hanging up the phone, I was constantly wary of my mom. Even when I slept, I didn't dare to sleep too deeply. Any slight disturbance would wake me up suddenly. Several days passed in a row, and other than a lot of people from the Sunnyvale community coming to our home to cause trouble for me and my mom every day, nothing else unusual happened. My mom was the same as before, ignoring people's questions and curses. She just lived her life coldly and indifferently. Other than calling me to eat when it was mealtime, she didn't say a single extra word to me. The days passed peacefully and uneventfully. This continued until 7 days later. I was playing on my phone at home when the internet was down. My mom, who was watching a video, realized this and suddenly her face changed drastically. Without saying a word, she quickly pulled me to the warehouse. Then she turned on the lamp, revealing a secret passage I had never seen before. She shoved me into the secret passage, her voice more urgent than I'd ever heard it. "Run, and don't look back." Sarah Johnson had always been indifferent, no matter what happened. Even when her meat pie caused a string of suicides, she didn't bat an eye. But now, she was pale and frantic, showing a level of tension and fear I'd never witnessed. It made me wonder, "Mom, what's wrong? Why are we running? What happened?" Sarah Johnson's voice was strained. "I don't have time to explain. Any more delay and it'll be too late. If you don't want to die, listen to me, run. Remember, keep running forward, and don't look back." At that moment, Sarah Johnson didn't seem like a dangerous person who would harm others. Instead, she seemed like a great mother protecting her child in a crisis. Before I could ask any more questions, Sarah Johnson closed the secret passage door. Although I didn't know what was going on, I didn't dare delay. I listened to Sarah Johnson's instructions and moved quickly along the secret passage. I walked a long way in the pitch-black secret passage, but no matter where I went, my phone still had no signal. The further I went, the stronger my doubts became. I didn't understand what could have happened to make my Sarah Johnson act like this. I couldn't figure out what situation would make my Sarah Johnson build such a long secret passage in our home as a backup. Filled with curiosity and anxiety, I ran out of the secret passage. Pushing open the secret passage door, I found myself in a field outside the Sunnyvale community. I obeyed Sarah Johnson's words, not looking back, and kept running forward. The more I ran, the more uneasy I felt. Although the deaths of those neighbors and Robert Rob Anderson filled me with resentment towards my Sarah Johnson, the way my Sarah Johnson had frantically pushed me into the passage clearly showed she was trying to protect me. I couldn't just leave her alone. And seeing how anxious she was, maybe this was related to Robert Rob Anderson's death? With that thought, I turned around and ran back towards the Sunnyvale community. I walked very quickly, without stopping. I finally made it to the Sunnyvale community, but I found that the village entrance, where people usually gathered to chat, was deserted today. The entire Sunnyvale community was eerily quiet. This unusual scene made me even more panicked. I rushed to our home, and I was instantly stunned. Because at the door of our home, my Sarah Johnson was lying motionless in a pool of blood. The scene seared itself into my eyes and brain. Before I could think, I rushed forward like a madwoman, picked up my Sarah Johnson, and shouted. But no matter how much I shouted, my Sarah Johnson didn't respond at all. My Sarah Johnson was dead. She died tragically. But on her face, there was a faint smile. I immediately called Detective David Smith, Dave Johnson. Soon, the sound of sirens came closer and closer. Detective David Smith, Dave Johnson, led a team to our home. After questioning me and collecting evidence, he took Sarah Jo and Son's body back to the city police department with me for the medical examiner to perform an autopsy. Based on our on-site survey and the autopsy results, the deceased appears to have died by suicide, the medical examiner said to Detective David Smith, Dave Johnson, and me. Without thinking, I retorted, "That's impossible. The internet is down at our home," and my Sarah Johnson looked so worried. She must have known something bad was going to happen at our home, so she kept telling me to run. She had no reason to commit suicide. If Sarah Johnson committed suicide, why was she in such a hurry to tell me to run? And why would she say such worried instructions? Detective David Smith, Dave Johnson pondered for a moment and gently comforted me. those people and Robert Rob Anderson's death caused a big stir. Maybe your Sarah Johnson couldn't handle the pressure, so she made that choice. She told you to run. Maybe she just didn't want you to see her die tragically. I shook my head. No way. My Sarah Johnson has always been emotionally stable and has never let other people's affairs affect her life. These days, she's been living her life like nothing happened. How could she suddenly commit suicide because of this? You guys should investigate carefully. This matter is not that simple. My Sarah Johnson was murdered. The more I spoke, the more anxious I became, my voice even cracking with sobs. First, the neighbors in the Sunnyvale community, then Robert Rob Anderson, and now my Sarah Johnson. The successive and bizarre deaths of people around me made me extremely frightened. I didn't know how long this unknown fear would surround me, but I was fed up. Seeing that I was on the verge of a breakdown, Detective David Smith, Dave Johnson, comforted me for a while and repeatedly told the medical examiner to examine the body more carefully. But no matter how carefully they examined it, the final autopsy results all pointed to suicide. Everything was set. Lead. I handled Sarah Johnson's funeral alone. I buried her ashes with my David Smiths. I knelt in front of their graves, unable to recover for a long time. I really couldn't understand why I would encounter such outrageous things. Why was God treating me like this? Were the people around me destined to come to a bad end? As I was filled with doubt and despair, old man William Thompson, the elderly village, came to my David Smith and Sarah Johnson's grave, leaning on his cane. He bowed to them first, then looked at me with a deep expression and said, "Hazel Thompson, there's something I think I should tell you." Old man William Thompson's legs were not good, so he rarely went out under normal circumstances. The fact that he made a special trip to my David Smith and Sarah Johnson's grave to say this to me, leaning on his cane, clearly meant that this matter was extraordinary. I immediately tensed up and asked him, "What is it?" Old man William Thompson looked up at the distance with a look of reminiscence and said, "You may not know, but your grandpa Fitzwilliam was once a well-known mysterious prophet. He never made a mistake in his life of fortune-telling. Countless people traveled from afar just to ask him for a reading. When you were born, a sunny day in June, suddenly thunderstorms and heavy winds. I went out to collect the quilts and accidentally heard your grandpa Fitzwilliam give you a reading. After the reading, he, who was always calm, suddenly went crazy and said he wanted to kill you. At that time, your Sarah Johnson held you tightly in her arms, and your David Smith desperately stopped your grandpa Fitzwilliam, asking him why. Your grandpa Fitzwilliam only said that you were a jinx and couldn't be kept alive. But your David Smith and Sarah Johnson disagreed and protected you with their lives. Your grandpa Fitzwilliam rushed out of our home like a madman and never came back. I know this is our family matter, and I shouldn't be nosy, so I've never mentioned this to anyone. But all the fellow villagers who were kind to you, as well as your fiancé and your Sarah Johnson, have died bizarrely one after another. I think it might be related to this matter. A few years ago, I met your grandpa Fitzwilliam on Blackstone Mountain in our Sunnyvale community. He should be living in seclusion on Blackstone Mountain. If you want to know the answer, you can go find him and ask. Hearing old man William Thompson's words, my heart, which had been floating in a fog, seemed to suddenly find direction. No wonder I had never heard my David Smith and Sarah Johnson mention Grandpa Fitzwilliam since I was a child. And I had never seen my own Grandpa Fitzwilliam. I didn't expect there to be such a thing. I paused and asked curiously, "Village, isn't it said that there are wild animals on Blackstone Mountain all year round? Even the young and strong men in our Sunnyvale community don't dare to go up the mountain rashly. Are you sure my grandpa Fitzwilliam is living in seclusion on the mountain alone?" I had heard people in the Sunnyvale community say that Blackstone Mountain was very scary since I was a child. Many people who went up the mountain were either disabled or died. I really couldn't imagine how Grandpa Fitzwilliam could survive on the mountain alone. Old man William Thompson looked in awe and said in a deep voice, "Your Grandpa Fitzwilliam is no ordinary person. Even the fiercest beasts wouldn't dare to act presumptuously in front of him. I went up the mountain back then because my granddaughter was naughty and got trapped while playing on the mountain. This leg of mine was bitten off by a wild animal on the mountain while I was looking for her. At that time, I thought I was going to die there. It was your Grandpa Fitzwilliam who appeared in time, saved my life, and helped me find my granddaughter. So I think your Grandpa Fitzwilliam should be able to give you an answer about these bizarre RRE things that our family has experienced." I nodded and expressed my heartfelt thanks to Grandpa Fitzwilliam. Then I went up the mountain alone without stopping and embarked on the road to find Grandpa Fitzwilliam. This was my first time going to Blackstone Mountain in the Sunnyvale community. The mountain forest was very large, desolate and barren. There wasn't even a complete path under my feet. The air was filled with a musty smell of desolation. The roars of wild animals echoed from time to time. But for some reason, I wasn't afraid at all, even though I should have felt lost and scared. It was as if someone was secretly protecting me. I followed my instincts and walked all the way. After walking for an unknown amount of time, I finally saw a thatched cottage at the top of the mountain. Before I could even enter the house, a hoarse voice came from inside, "You've finally come." Although this was the first time I had heard this voice, I felt a strange sense of familiarity. With a nervous feeling, I walked into the thatched cottage. Inside the house, a flickering candlelight flickered on the table. Sitting at the table was an elderly, thin old man. His eyebrows and eyes were 5 points similar to my David Smith. "Grandpa Fitzwilliam," I said politely, my tone restrained. Grandpa Fitzwilliam took a deep look at me. "Don't be nervous. Sit down." I nodded and sat safely opposite Grandpa Fitzwilliam. Before I could speak, Grandpa Fitzwilliam took the initiative and said, "It seems your David Smith and Sarah Johnson have tried their best to raise you to be so big. They can rest assured knowing this." I was slightly stunned and asked, "Grandpa Fitzwilliam, do you know my David Smith and Sarah Johnson are dead? Then do you know what exactly is going on? Why did everyone who ate Sarah Johnson's meat pie die?" Hearing this, Grandpa Fitzwilliam sighed deeply and said weakly, "This matter has to start from when I was young. At that time, I was young and frivolous and thought I could see through everything. So I ignored the laws of nature and revealed heavenly secrets. Because of this, I was destined to have a tribulation. Your birth is my tribulation. You are a jinx, and your existence is destined to bring disaster to everyone around you. The best solution is to kill you." But your David Smith and Sarah Johnson couldn't bear it. They protected you with their lives. So I could only live in seclusion on the mountain to change my fate against the will of heaven. But forcibly reversing the situation will bring disaster to the people around you. So, from the moment you, David Smith, and Sarah Johnson, decided to protect yourselves by force, their death dates were doomed. Your David Smith didn't die in an accident, but was killed by you because of this. Your Sarah Johnson never told you, probably because she didn't want you to feel guilty because of this. But from that day on, your fate also began to count down. Your Sarah Johnson knew that if this continued, you wouldn't live long. So, she opened a pie shop, put a spell on the meat pie, so that everyone who ate the meat pie would lose their minds and commit suicide. You, Sarah Johnson, are using other people's lives to extend your life. Only in this way can you survive. Hearing this, my heart trembled violently. No wonder my Sarah Johnson didn't let me attend the wake on the day my David Smith died. After a hasty handling of my David Smith's body, she immediately opened a pie shop. No wonder everyone who ate the meat pie committed suicide, but I was fine. It turned out that my Sarah Johnson was using her way to let me live. Knowing that the source of all evil was because of me, I hated myself to the extreme. Why? Why did you want to let me live? Why did you want to harm so many innocent people because of me? At the thought of Robert Rob Anderson's death, it was also because my Sarah Johnson was using his life to extend my life. I was extremely saddened and couldn't help but choke up. If my survival requires so many people to sacrifice, then I'd rather die. Grandpa Fitzwilliam's voice was weak and his tone was low. Your Sarah Johnson must have guessed that you would think so she kept silent for so many years. I looked at Grandpa Fitzwilliam and asked in confusion, then how exactly did my Sarah Johnson die? Grandpa Fitzwilliam's voice was even softer. As your closest relative, she was destined not to live too long. So, at the last moment, she chose to commit suicide, using the same method to extend your life with her own life. If I guessed correctly, she had a smile on her face when she died, right? Thinking of the slight smile on Sarah Johnson's pale face, I nodded, my heart aching, yes. Realizing that my David Smith, my Sarah Johnson, Robert Rob Anderson, and all the innocent villagers had died because of me, I felt extremely uncomfortable. I wish I had died early on the day I was born. That way, so many people wouldn't have died. As if seeing through the guilt and suffering in my heart, Grandpa Fitzwilliam used his last bit of strength and lowered his head to whisper, Hazel Thompson, your David Smith and Sarah Johnson saved you with their lives because they wanted you to live. I hope you don't let them down. After speaking, Grandpa Fitzwilliam lowered his head deeply and never made a sound again. Grandpa Fitzwilliam also died. All of this seemed to be just as he said. My jinx fate would bring misfortune to all those who were closely related to me. After grieving for a while, I buried Grandpa Fitzwilliam's body on Blackstone Mountain. After settling everything, I didn't leave immediately. Instead, I returned to the thatched cottage where Grandpa Fitzwilliam lived. It stands to reason that Grandpa Fitzwilliam had already solved all the mysteries in my heart. But for some reason, I still felt that something was wrong. I looked around Grandpa Fitzwilliam's thatched cottage for a long time. Suddenly, I realized what the problem was. I quickly took out my phone and sent a text message. Then I went down the mountain and went straight to Old Man William Thompson's house. Old Man William Thompson was a little surprised by my sudden visit. He invited me into the house, poured me tea, and asked, "Did you see your Grandpa Fitzwilliam?" I nodded. I saw him. "Thank you, village, for letting me know the truth." Old Man William Thompson smiled and said lightly, "You're welcome. We've been fellow villagers for so long, so we should help each other. After all, your Grandpa Fitzwilliam saved my life. If you don't mind, you can come to our home often in the future. My granddaughter is just as old as you. In the future, I will take care of you like my own granddaughter." Hearing this, my expression turned cold, and I said lightly, "So, is that why you killed my entire family?" Old Man William Thompson paused slightly and looked at me in confusion. "Hazel Thompson, what nonsense are you talking about? How could I kill your whole family? Have you been too tired from handling Sarah Johnson's funeral lately, and your mind is not clear?" Seeing that he was still pretending, I sneered and said directly, "Village, you've put a lot of effort into achieving your goal. You've designed murders and created a puppet to pretend to be my Grandpa Fitzwilliam and made up so many stories for me. Do you think your plan is foolproof this way?" Meeting my determined gaze, Old Man William Thompson smiled faintly. He simply shed the false amiable look on his face, sat opposite me, and said coldly, "It seems you know everything?" I nodded. "That's right. The mysterious prophet you mentioned is not my Grandpa Fitzwilliam, but you. As for the jinx, it's not me, it's your granddaughter. Right?" Old Man William Thompson didn't deny it, but looked at me with interest and continued to ask, "What else? Tell me, WH. Else do you know?" I smiled triumphantly and said slowly, "You were there on the day my David Smith died in an accident. You were also there on the day my Sarah Johnson opened a pie shop. If I guessed correctly, you killed my David Smith. After killing my David Smith, you controlled my Sarah Johnson with a mysterious curse. Then you used my Sarah Johnson to open a pie shop, using meat pie/meat pie to kill other people's lives and extend your granddaughter's life. Right? Recalling the past, those bizarre coincidences that I couldn't understand were traceable. For example, on the day my David Smith died, old man William Thompson made an excuse to comfort my Sarah Johnson. After that, Sarah Johnson became a different person. She inexplicably opened a pie shop. And when my Sarah Johnson drove me to the secret passage, I also vaguely heard old man William Thompson's voice in the secret passage. Presumably, at that time, my Sarah Johnson had completely broken free of the mysterious curse that the village had cast on her. That's why she was so sober and tried so hard to let me run and not look back. Before, I was always immersed in the grief of losing my relatives and had no time to think about these things. But if you calm down and think about it carefully, you can know that these insignificant details are the key to the problem. Hearing this, old man William Thompson chuckled. Not bad, it seems you are much smarter than I thought. I didn't reply and continued, those stories you had people make up for me have truths and lies. My granddaughter and I were born on the same day of the same month of the same year. It wasn't me who caused the thunderstorms and heavy winds that day, but your granddaughter. As a mysterious prophet, you could tell your granddaughter's uniqueness at a glance. You know that if you want to change it, you can only find me, who was born on the same day of the same month of the same year, to change my life. So, you first killed my David Smith, and then used my Sarah Johnson to continuously kill people and extend your granddaughter's life. Finally, you tried to create the illusion that my Sarah Johnson committed suicide to let everything settle down. After doing these things, you especially came to my David Smith and Sarah Johnson's grave to lure me to see the puppet you had arranged in advance and listen to those stories that didn't belong to me. The purpose was to use the grief and guilt in my heart to defeat my will, and then you could take advantage of it to control me and achieve the goal of changing your granddaughter's fate against the will of heaven. Facing my analysis, old man William Thompson did not deny it. Instead, he looked at me with a deep look and asked, "How did you know all this?" Recalling everything, I said unhurriedly, "You know what? Even if the medical examiner and the police told me countless times that my Sarah Johnson died by suicide, I wouldn't believe it. I firmly believe that she couldn't have hurriedly led me away and committed suicide for no reason." Combining the deaths of Rob Anderson and the others, I concluded that there must be someone in the dark that I don't know about, manipulating everything with invisible means. And my Sarah Johnson must have noticed this, so she escaped secret passage in our home in advance. But she also knew that the enemy she was facing was very powerful. So, she buried everything in her heart, and when she encountered danger, she just repeatedly told me to run and not look back, to avoid me falling into danger. Your plan is indeed very perfect. First, you kill all the people around me, and then you make a puppet impersonate my Grandpa Fitzwilliam to tell me stories. But you overlooked one point. That is the smell in that thatched cottage. My David Smith was born with a severe allergy to mugwort. He said it was a family inheritance, and my Grandpa Fitzwilliam would also have it. So our family never touches mugwort. But in that thatched cottage, there was a faint smell of mugwort ointment. That smell is the same as the ointment on your leg. Hearing this, a sinister look appeared in old man William Thompson's eyes. He stared at me deeply. It seems I still underestimated you. You were able to analyze everything from such a small detail. But, now that you know my skills, you still dare to come to my door? I smiled faintly and said coldly, "Your skills are indeed very strong. But you are too confident. I don't know if being smart is ruined by being too smart." Hearing this, old man William Thompson narrowed his eyes and asked vigilantly, "What do you mean by this?" I looked at him without fear. Although I didn't know the purpose of the person in the dark doing these things before, I can be sure that since he specially killed all the people around me, he will come to me. So, I lit a few specially made hypnotic incense sticks in front of my David Smith and Sarah Johnson's grave. Once the murderer comes to me, he will have already been poisoned by me. However, in order not to accidentally injure innocent people who come to sweep the grave, simply inhaling that one poison will not cause too much damage to the body. Unless it is mixed with another musk, it will become a deadly poison. At this moment, that musk is constantly emitting from my body. From the moment I entered the door, the deadly poison has already merged into your body. Hearing what I said, old man William Thompson's face changed. He tried to get up and attack me, but his body fell to the ground like a pile of mud. You be *tch, dare to play dirty tricks on me? Old man William Thompson was extremely angry. The way he looked at me seemed like he wanted to tear me apart. I got up and looked down at him, coldly. You have been playing dirty tricks all along. I'm just giving you a taste of your own medicine. After saying that, Detective David Smith Dave Johnson bro. Coo in with a group of police officers. To be on the safe side, I had already sent a message and location to Detective David Smith, Dave Johnson, in advance before coming over. This time, old man William Thompson was completely dumbfounded. He still wanted to quibble, but I directly took out the recording of the conversation just now and handed it to Detective David Smith Dave Johnson. He has already confessed to all the crimes. Detective David Smith Dave Johnson looked at me with relief. Hazel Thompson, I made things too simple before and almost let the real murderer escape. Fortunately, you persisted. Your David Smith and Sarah Johnson and Robert Rob Anderson will be proud of you in heaven. I said solemnly, I just don't want them to die in vain. After saying that, I turned and left. Later, old man William Thompson was sentenced to death for intentional homicide. And I, with the entrustment of my David Smith and Sarah Johnson and Robert Rob Anderson, lived a good life. I think, if they were still alive, they would also want to see me bravely move towards the future.